to thank the listeners. If you have any questions for our guest, please type them in the chat, or you can do it on Skype. And I have Robert Waggnor, and we are talking about lucid dreaming. Robert, let the listeners know how they can find you.
Yeah, thanks. You can always find me at Lucid, Lucid, lucidadvice.com. There you can find what workshops I'm doing and all those kind of things. And then also I co-edit a free online magazine, the Lucid Dreaming Experience. And so if you go to luciddreamingmagazine.com, there you can read the latest issue and past issues, and also sign up as a free subscriber.
Yeah, and it's worth it. I get the magazine. It's a great read. I recommend it. And also you have an opportunity for people to mail in their dreams, and you print some of them in the magazine.
That's right. We're always happy for our readers to submit their own lucid dreams, and sometimes you get some that even blow my mind. I'm like, whoa, I can't believe someone had this kind of lucid dream. Mm-hmm. And there's articles in there, and we interview someone each issue. So there's a lot to find out in the Lucid Dreaming Experience magazine.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Sign up for it, listeners. And it was funny, like during the break, Tina was just sharing something. Tina Marie was just sharing something where, like, the realization that there was a whole lot of premonition going on around a dream that someone had, without going into too many details about it. But I wonder, like, this is happening a lot with people, and they are, a lot of the times, they just need somebody to bounce it off of, or to come across an article that has been written that helps explain that for them. You know, a lot of times I think a lot of people are alone in their selves, you know, as far as like sharing with somebody else. So it's right. It's always like really nice when you find others who you can talk about your dreams, your lucid dreams, your experiences.
Right. You know, that's one reason I joined this organization, the International Association for the Study of Dreams. Mm-hmm. And so it's composed, about a third of the people are academics and researchers, about a third of the people are psychotherapists, and people use dreams therapeutically. And then about a third of the people are just people with a deep interest in dreaming and lucid dreaming. And there I've just met some of the most incredible people who have extraordinary precognitive dreams, visitation dreams, mm-hmm. incredible precognitive lucid dreams. It's really fascinating to be with those people, because our normal society isn't really a dream sharing society.
No.
You know, if you have a dream, you just basically keep it to yourself, or a lot of times if you tell somebody, they'll just roll their eyes and mm-hmm. it was just a dream. And so we really don't have a place where we can share dreams, interact with, you know, our dreaming selves and all. And so that's one reason I joined that organization.
Yeah, I think it's good that there are more places like this, you know, and brings people together with a common interest.
Right. And also one thing that I've learned in my own life, I think my precognitive dreams normally are a little bit different than my regular dreaming. And that's why it helps to kind of know what a normal dream is like and what an unusual dream is like. So, for example, about 7 months before 911 happened, I started to have, you know, every couple of weeks, totally wild dreams, you know, buildings collapsing, finding mm-hmm. myself in kind of like a survivor, you know, trying to crawl out of concrete and dust. And I'm thinking, you know, I live in the town in the middle of the Midwest that has 60,000 people. We don't have skyscrapers here that crumble mm-hmm. to the ground. And by the end of August, I'd had so many of these. I told my wife that something's happening. It's going to be like Pearl Harbor or the start of the Great Depression. There's something big happening. And she says, well, what should we do? And I said, well, that's the weird thing. I can tell in my dreams it really doesn't have anything to do with us and all. But as it turned out, my first dream of the series explained exactly where my wife and I were going to be on 9/11. We were in France, and because of something really strange that happened, we were on the first flight back from Paris Charles de Gaulle to Chicago O'Hare. If I had chosen the days earlier, we would have been, waitlisted with thousands of other people. But when I was filling out the computer form in Waking Reality on my computer, when I got to, we'll come back on September 13th, my body just started shaking like someone was trying to wake me up. And I thought, okay, we'll come back the 14th. And my body was just shaking. And then I bet, okay, we'll come back the 15th. And my body didn't shake. And so I thought, okay, the 15th seems okay. And so I got his tickets to return.
Wow.
And so I show you that time isn't exactly this linear thing that we normally expect. There's really something more going on there. And sometimes in our dreams, we're given a preview of coming attractions, but normal dreams are special somehow. So not every dream has precognitive elements. A lot of times it just has to do with your emotional state and
working through like daily stuff. You know, a lot of them are that. And I wonder. This is something that I experienced, and I've experienced it a couple of times. The realm that I find myself seems like a holodeck.
Oh.
And I wonder if you've come across anybody that's experienced that.
Yeah, I think the holodeck is a wonderful metaphor for kind of what dreaming is like, because what I see in my lucid dreams is they reflect back to me my own beliefs and expectations and all. So, like if I become lucid and I believe that I can easily fly through that wall, then I'll just fly right through it. Yeah. But if I fly up to it and think, oh boy, that looks really solid and thick, then I'll bounce off of it, even though it's a dream. So it reflects my beliefs and expectations back to me. And that's kind of what in the Star Trek, the holodeck was kind of, that you could kind of dream up certain situations and then be aware and alive situations.
Yeah, it's like platforms. Like I can go from one platform to another and it's a different holodeck. It's interesting. I wanted to talk about a dream that I believe I remember reading it in one of the magazines a few years back. And it was one of your readers had sent in a dream, I believe. And in the dream, it was almost like the way that they described it, it was like when you're in the afterlife and there's these doorways that open up and these temptations in the room, like your friends might be standing in a bar.
Right.
And then do you remember that?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. So this was a lucid dream by just a wonderful lucid dreamer who lives in the Middle East named Kareem. He came to one of my workshops and just kept advancing as a lucid dreamer. But in this particular lucid dream, he becomes lucid when he sees Azrael, which in the Middle East is the angel of death. And so he's had a couple other dreams or lucid dreams where he's met Azrael. So he sees Azrael and he realizes, oh, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. And so they start talking and he asks Azrael if there's some way that a person can work such that they don't get reincarnated. And Azrael tells him, oh, yes, there's a way to do it, but you have to pass like 7 challenges. And I'll show you the challenges. And so Kareem and Azrael go into this room, and there's all of Kareem's relatives and all, begging them to come over to their table. Come over here, Kareem, come over here. And Azrael tells Kareem, if you go over to their table, you'll get reincarnated into another life at the point of death. So then he takes him, to another place, and now there's all these riches. And he tells Kareem, if you get seduced by all this wealth and power and money, and you fall for that, then you'll get reincarnated into another life. And he took him through like 7 challenges. I think the final one was becoming a spiritual teacher that everybody admired. He said, if you make it to the and then get caught up in becoming a spiritual teacher that everyone will admire, it shows that you're still not ready to end the reincarnational cycle.
Wow.
And I read that lucid dream and I thought, wow, some just amazing lucid dreams. But it shows, again, how in lucid dreams you can be taught things, you can be shown things that normally you would never come up with in your waking life. I mean, and it kind of reminds me, too, that there's been a number of books like Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes.
That came to him in the dream state. And then Mary Louise Shelley, Bish Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein.
Right, Mary Shelley. Yeah,
Mary Shelley, that came to her in the dream state. And so there's a lot of creativity in the dream state, but when you're lucidly aware, that's when you have the capacity to experiment on your own, ask questions. If you don't understand something, you can ask for clarification. And that's the beauty of lucid dreaming.
It is beautiful. And, our own Tina Marie, she wrote a book, Alien Deception, that all came to her in a dream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had interviewed her like a few months back and found that out. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. Like, I wonder how many movies, how many paintings, how many musical scores, like, got their start in a dream, got their
right.
Their
I
message
remember
through.
The music to Yesterday, which was one of the hits by the Beatles, came to Paul McCartney. He was staying at his grandma's place in London while they were filming the movie Help, and he said one night he was having this dream where he was hearing this incredible music, and he was just listening to this incredible music, and then he woke up, and he said he ran over to the nearest piano and started playing the music, which later became Yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away, and he said he would play it for friends and ask him, whose music is this? And they said, you're playing it. It's your music. But it all came to him in a dream. And it just makes, there's people who've won the Nobel Prize who got the invention resolved or figured out in the dream state. And even Larry Page, who's one of the co-founders of Google, at the 2013 commencement ceremony at the University of Michigan, he told that graduating class that he had been a doctoral student there, and one night he dreamt, basically the Google process of doing internet searches. And he said he woke up, and for a couple hours he wrote down all the ideas that were coming to him. He showed it to his major professor. His major professor says, yeah, this is actually kind of interesting, but why don't you get your PhD first, and then you can worry about this thing that you dreamt up. But that was kind of the origin of Google searching.
Wow.
So again, we think we live in this real hard, fast world, but some of this stuff comes in the state of dreaming. And the beauty of lucid dreaming is that you can seek it out when you're lucidly aware, especially if you know how to. And that's why I write books on the subject and do online workshops and things.
Yeah, and they're great books. I recommend them, and I recommend the workshops. I recommend the magazine. If you're interested in lucid dreaming, this is the go-to. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I keep on wanting to jump ahead and say, well, can you tell them about the 5 steps?
In my first book, one thing that I tried to get across to people is that lucid dreaming is a path. It's a journey. It's just not something, I've had 1 or 2 and now I understand everything about lucid dreaming. It's a long journey. And so in my first book, I had that there were kind of 5 stages of lucid dreaming that I kind of went through. And the first stage was basically just playing around. I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975. The scientific evidence came out in 1980, which was great because then I could talk to people about it and point to the science, and they wouldn't think that I was just making stuff up. But by playing around in the lucid dream state, I began to realize that there's principles here. So like the first thing I think that every lucid dreamer around the world learns is you can't get too excited. If you get too excited in the lucid dream, you're going to wake up.
You wake up.
Yeah. And so it's like there's this inner circuit breaker that if you get either way too happy excited or way too bummed out excited, whatever it is, if you get too excited, you're just going to wake up. And so you got to tell yourself, stay calm, relax and all if you want to have a longer lucid dream. And so at the beginning, you just kind of play around, you explore, you just have fun, and you begin to learn a little bit about the principles of lucid dreaming. But you're really still in pretty shallow water there in the first stage. I think the second stage is when you begin to bring goals into the lucid dream. Now you become lucidly aware and you realize, you could hang out with those dream figures over there and have a lot of fun and go dancing and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But at this stage, you start to have goals that you want to achieve or things that you want to experiment with. And this is when you begin to learn how to manipulate the dream space more directly. And so that's when you start to learn how, you need to learn how to use your beliefs and expectations. You need to learn how to use your focus. You need to learn how to, kind of, in some ways, kind of manipulate your own mind if you're going to become better at lucid dreaming. So for some people, they'll tell me, on a workshop, oh, my problem is with flying. I can't fly in lucid dreams, or I can only fly 6 feet high or something. And I'll try to convince them. I go, look, in waking reality, we have this thing called gravity, right? And they'll go, sure. And I say, so in dreaming, is there anything like gravity? The only gravity that exists in a lucid dream is the person who believes in gravity. If you don't believe in gravity, then you can fly like Superman. You can zip around and do just wild stuff. But as long as you believe in gravity, as long as you have any fear about exploring higher, then that's going to be reflected in your experience. And so you begin to realize that the problem isn't out there in the lucid dream. The problem is really my own beliefs and expectations, my focus and intent. And so in that kind of stage, now you're kind of becoming more influential within the dream space and doing more stuff. And that's probably the third stage, is when you have this real sense of power and all, and kind of your ego has gotten a little bit puffed up at how much you can do and what you can show and how you can interact with dream figures and be all powerful. But I think what happens then is that all of a sudden something unusual happens. You'll have this non-visible voice, which I call the inner awareness, or the awareness behind the dream, will give you advice or give you some insight. And then all of a sudden you begin to realize that, there's something more knowledgeable here in the dream space. There's something more knowledgeable than me, the lucid dreamer, within the dream space. And when you begin to interact with this awareness behind the dream, I think, and you start to see its creativity and knowledge and all, that's when you really start to have your mind blown. And so for people out there, what I'd suggest is, if you want to interact with the awareness behind the dream and you're a lucid dreamer, the next time you become lucid, so stabilize the lucid dream. Don't get too excited, maintain your focus. And then just ignore all the dream figures and just announce to the dream, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see. And sometimes the entire lucid dream will change, or sometimes one symbol will appear, something important. And as you begin to play with this, you can go much more deeper. Like like sometimes people ask me, well, in a lucid dream, could you interact with God or find Jesus or interact with the Buddha? And I tell them, don't even try that kind of stuff, because you'll get too excited and you'll wake up.
Yeah.
So instead, what I want you to do is, when you become lucidly aware, stabilize the lucid dream, and then announce, hey, dream, let me experience unconditional love.
Mm.
And then sometimes you'll have the most profound experience. I gave a talk out in London and mentioned to people that that's what I would suggest to them, just ask, hey, dream, let me experience unconditional love. I came back 6 months later to give another talk, and this woman stood up and told everyone that she had heard me the previous visit, and she, in a lucid dream, asked, let me experience unconditional love. She said her mind was blown by what she then experienced.
Oh.
She said when she woke up from that lucid dream, she couldn't believe how deep love could be. And she said she cried tears of joy for 15 minutes. That's how blown away she was. So
that's beautiful.
That interacting with the awareness behind the dream is really just something profound.
Yeah.
And that's when you get more to understand that, there's something more going on here. There's deeper stuff to go to. And that's probably when you get into the deeper realms that the Buddhists and the Sufis and the Taoists and the spiritual societies in Native America and other shamanic traditions have encountered. So there's a lot of depth there, just a lot of depth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's possible to learn it all, and that's a really great thing. We're actually coming up on a break, and we will be right back. It looks like we have a question from... So I'm just going to fast forward through the break there, and you are listening to Navigating the Truth on Revolution Radio. I am in Studio A. My name is Caroline Bell-Tumblety. And we're listening to an interview that I did, I think it was the 5th of March, 2023, and my guest was Robert Waggnor, who is the author of Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, and also he is co-author of Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, and that is with Caroline McCready. And his work is fascinating, and I just find him to be a really down to earth, matter of fact kind of person who just he just shares his experience, and he shares that this experience as he has experimented on himself, and he has in his books there's a lot of tips and ideas on how to lucid dream if any of the listeners are interested in exploring that. And let's see if I can just fast forward this a little bit, and we will go back to the interview, and I think we're on the final half hour, so let's see.
The dead speak from the afterlife through...
Nope, still ads. It was such a great production, KCOR, Tina did such a great job.
8 p.m. Pacific, 11...
The entire night. And so this began to happen intermittently. I remember one morning I came down to the breakfast table, and my wife asked me, what's going on with you? And I asked her why she would ask that. And she said, I woke up last night and looked at your face, and I've never seen someone in such bliss before. What's happening to you? And I said, well, I'm trying to understand the actual nature of reality, and I am having some really wild experiences. And that was one of the nights of nothing but blue light. But in my book, I explain how this even went further, and until basically an experience of non-duality occurred. So imagine awareness, the light of awareness, aware within the light of awareness. And then, boom, that stopped. And I found myself next to a guy in a robe, and I asked him, what was that? Was that a lucid dream? And he said, oh, no, to enter a lucid dream, go here. And I stepped into that space, and I'm flying through this tunnel of light and occasional geometric symbols, and finally become into a dream scene. I enter lucidly aware. But when I woke up, I thought, what was that first part, that awareness, aware within awareness? And I'll tell you what it was like, Caroline. It was like a near-death experience it's like what you would imagine a death experience would be like, when you merge with the light, when you become the light. But there's no sense of self. It's just there's the light of awareness, and you're aware within the light of awareness. And so after that, I really began to wonder what that experience was about. And it was 3 years later, I was at an Association for the Study of Dreams conference, and they had this Buddhist guy, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who came to speak about the Tibetan yogas of dream and sleep, the book he just created. And he said the ultimate goal of lucid dreaming and the dream yoga tradition was an experience of the clear light of awareness by awareness itself.
Wow.
And I about fell out of my chair. I didn't realize that this was a tradition. I'd never bothered to study Buddhism or anything like that. And it was really extraordinary. And there's been more that's happened since then. But again, my basic point is this: lucid dreaming is a journey. And you think you get to the top of the mountain, and then you just realize, oh, I'm just reached the next plateau. Now I see that there's another mountain further ahead.
Right.
And so that's what the experience is like. But the journey is so much fun, and you learn so much about yourself, and you resolve inner issues, you get rid of limiting beliefs, you just explore the nature of the mind, the nature of the self. It's truly profoundly deep.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. That was really, really lovely. We have a question from Gary. Thank you, Gary, for your question. And it's, what is the difference between lucid dreaming and astral travel?
Great. That's a wonderful question. Oftentimes people ask me, what's the difference between lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences or astral travel and all. So remember, the definition of lucid dream, you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. So, you see the Queen of England and she's washing the dishes in your kitchen. And you think, what's the Queen of England doing here washing my dishes? This has to be a dream. So you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. Now, in an out-of-body or an astral travel, oftentimes what happens, you might be falling asleep and you start to hear this humming and buzzing. Sometimes it's around your head. Sometimes it's around your entire body. Almost like someone has a didgeridoo, that Australian.
The didgeridoo, yeah.
Didgeridoo, and it's just this real intense vibration humming. And then sometimes you feel this really strange energy, within yourself. And then you might notice that you're seeing the bedroom from 6 feet above the bed, and you're wondering, how did I get up here when I was laying in bed a moment ago? To me, that's kind of a classic out-of-body experience. Or you might have an out-of-body experience when you have a heart attack, and now you're in the hospital, and you're viewing the doctors and the nurses from up on the ceiling, looking down at this lifeless body, on the operating table. That to me is a kind of a classic out-of-body or astral travel kind of experience. But here's the thing. They're different, but they have some similarities, just like a house cat and a mountain lion have similarities. They're two totally different animals, but, they're both felines and from that same genus level. But in a lucid dream, so that you're dreaming, and so you have to use your mind to make things happen. If you believe that you can't walk through that wall, you can't walk through the wall because it seems hard. But if you realize, wait a second, this is dream stuff, I know I'm dreaming, I can shoot right through this wall, then if you believe it and expect it, you'll go right through it. But in an out-of-body experience, what Robert Monroe, who's kind of the father of out-of-bodies, said, he said that the fundamental difference, an out-of-body is a stable environment that you find yourself in. He said in a lucid dream, You can look at the clock and it'll say it's 7:30. You turn away for a few seconds, look back at the clock, and now it's 12:52.
Yeah.
And so things change. So it's kind of more a mentally reflective, mentally responsive environment. It's more of a mental environment, whereas an OBE seems a more stable, actual dimensional environment. But also there's differences. So like a person having an OBE, they might explain in the report how they rolled out of their body, they shot out of their body. Sometimes they'll feel like there's a cord connecting them. And these are all things that lucid dreamers never talk about, And then oftentimes when they return to the body, the bed will shake, because they slam back into their body. Again, lucid dreamers, normally they get too excited and they wake up, or they do something else and tell themselves to wake up, and they wake up from the dream. So they're similar because you're aware within a mental realm, but they're truly distinct in their phenomenology and all. But the sad thing is sometimes when people are trying to do wake-initiated lucid dreams, so they're trying to move from the waking state into a lucid dream, then sometimes when they're trying to do this, all of a sudden they'll start to hear this humming and buzzing, and they'll float out of, they'll float to the ceiling of their bedroom, and they'll think they're having a bizarre lucid dream. And boy, I've had so much trouble trying to tell people, you really had an out of body experience, and that's a classic. And they'll tell me, no, I was trying to have a lucid dream. And I said, I know you were trying to have a lucid dream, but you had an out of body experience, and that's what you got going there.
Yeah, they are different. They are different.
Right.
And it's good to get that kind of definition as well. Because I think there's a lot of confusion. I think there is a lot of confusion for people.
There's a lot of confusion. A lot of people use the same term for both, and which makes it even more confusing. And but in my first book, Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self, I have a half of a chapter devoted to the differences. I remember one time, though, I found myself, I was talking to this Native American elder or shaman, and he and I were having a very serious conversation. He was teaching me these things. And after about 10 minutes, I looked at him and I said, "This is a very stable lucid dream." And he looked at me and said, "This is not a lucid dream."
Wow. And
that's when I realized, that's right. I don't remember becoming consciously aware, realizing within a dream I was having a dream. I was just aware from the onset with this gentleman who was teaching me. And so again, even for someone experienced like me, on occasion, I'll wake up and I'll think, boy, I'm not sure if that was a lucid dream or an OBE, because sometimes they are quite similar.
Yeah. What about some other tips for people? I think I had, you have quite a few of them. And
Right. One thing that I want to say is I didn't write books on lucid dreaming until I had been a lucid dreamer for almost 30 years. And the reason I bring that up is sometimes I'll find on the internet, there'll be somebody who's had like 3 lucid dreams, and now they're teaching other people how to have lucid dreams. And I'm thinking,
no,
you just don't know that much. So one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit on the internet is a lot of times people will talk about reality checks as a great way to learn how to lucid dream. It's not really a very good way. It's not a very simple way to learn how to lucid dream. It normally takes you about a month or so of doing reality checks where you're questioning, am I in a dream right now or not? How can I tell? And that sort of thing. So what I would suggest to people, if you're a very beginner, just starting from the very beginning, you can do my hand technique. So before you go to sleep, just sit there in bed, take off your glasses, turn down the lights, and look at your hands, the palm of your hands, while telling yourself, tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And just really softly tell yourself that. Your eyes might cross, your hands might get fuzzy, but just keep telling yourself that. Make that your intent before you go to sleep, that you're going to see your hands and realize you're dreaming. And so what this is like is a conditioned response. It's a psychological technique where we're making the stimulus. As soon as we see our hands, our first thought has to be, this is a dream. And so you'll be going along in a dream, and just like you did, you might, trip on a stone, and you see your hands jump out in front of you, and you go, oh, my hands, this is a dream. Or you might be walking down a hallway like I was the first time, and boom, my hands popped right in front of my face. And you go, oh, crap, my hands, this is a dream. But what you're doing, you're making your hands, the sight of your hands, a stimulus to make this response. Oh, this is a dream. And so that was an easy way for me to start lucid dreaming. It's a technique that I developed back in 1975. Another really easy technique is the power of suggestion. All of us get influenced by marketing and various things. And so the power of suggestion is out there during the day, and it's also there in our unconscious or subconscious. But what I would do is, like, before I'd go to sleep, I would tell myself, tonight in my dreams, I'm going to be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. Because think of your normal dreams. You're walking through San Francisco Bay, and you look out, and suddenly Godzilla comes up. And you run, you try to tell people Godzilla's here, we got to get out of here. You lack any sense of critical awareness.
Right.
And so if you, in your suggestion, you tell yourself, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. That'll give you the opportunity when you see something strange, when Tom Cruise is knocking on your door, and he's the DoorDash guy. You go, wait, this is too weird. What's Tom Cruise doing as the DoorDash guy? This is a dream. So you can kind of use the power of suggestion. Because I want to tell you, back in the 1980, when the scientific evidence for lucid dreaming came out, there in the early years, what people were doing are just these techniques that I've been talking about. Power of suggestion was probably number one. This idea of looking at your hands was probably in the top 2 or 3. But that's how people are becoming lucidly aware, and they had a lot of success with it. But again, it's a practice. You got to practice. You got to put some intent in there, and also it helps to have a goal to achieve when you become lucidly aware. Because what do you want to do when you become lucidly aware? Do you want to find out what the dream figures represent? Do you want to try to heal your bad knee? Do you want to resolve some emotional trauma? What is it you want to do? And it helps to have a goal, because then there's a reason that you're doing the practice.
Well, like you reminded me there, like having a goal is important. I remember actually being in like a lucid dream, and I came across it like I would say that they were like an elder, like is the best description, and he basically said to me, you need better questions.
Oh, how wild. Yeah.
Well, this is a number of years ago. I'm laughing about it now. But at the time, I was like, oh, what?
It's interesting. A lot of times you can have some helpful advice occur in the lucid dream state that'll kind of move you along. If you have time for a story, I wanted to share one. So some people down in Bogota, Colombia, invited me, 5 or 6 years ago to come down to Bogota and do a weekend workshop at a hotel. And so it was a lot of fun. It's being translated through a Spanish translator and all to the audience. And it was interesting, though, that weekend there was this one woman who always sat in the front row. And I don't know, she's probably 40 years old and, attractive and all that kind of stuff. But she had all this pain in her face. And you know how it is. Sometimes you meet somebody and even though they're whatever, they just have pain in their face. And you don't know what it's all about, but you can just see it there. But one of the interesting things, she asked excellent questions. So I knew she was already a pretty good lucid dreamer, because only a good lucid dreamer would ask the kind of questions she was asking. So anyway, the conference comes to an end and I go home. And then 6 months later, they have me come back out to Bogota. And so I fly out there and I get to where the workshop's going to be. And all of a sudden, in through the door walks this woman. But now it's like 80% of the pain is gone from her face.
Wow.
And I run up to her and through the translator, I ask, what happened to you? You are so different. And she told me she had never thought about emotional healing in a lucid dream until she heard me talk about it in my weekend workshop and how to go about, the idea of either physical healing or emotional healing in the lucid dream state. And so she did exactly like I said. She went home. She thought out a plan. So she created a plan during the waking state that when she became lucid that she would do in order to achieve an emotional healing. And so she became lucid later that month. She stabilized the lucid dream, didn't get too excited. She maintained herself in the lucid state. And then she called on a spiritual figure. And the spiritual figure appeared in a blue robe. And she asked this spiritual figure to please heal my heart. Oh. And she said the spiritual figure put out its hands, and from its hands came this blue light that came shooting into her heart. And she said it was the most powerful, ecstatic feeling that she'd ever experienced. And she said when she woke up, she was a different person.
Wow.
She told me, she said the strange thing was this. She can still remember the traumatic incidents in her life, but now they had no power over her. It was like all the energetic feeling was gone. And she said now she had her life back. And I've never been so happy for a person to see somebody who's obviously endured some deep trauma, use lucid dreaming to resolve it. I was just incredibly proud of her.
Oh, wow. And that is so encouraging for others, that these things are really possible. They are possible.
Right. Also, I find it like with people who go to grief workshops because the loss of a loved one, sometimes I want to jump up and down and, boy, have you ever thought about learning lucid dreaming? Because in a lucid dream, there's a good chance that you could, have that final goodbye with your lost loved one and learn something. You might learn something that you actually didn't know. I've had people who have learned things from their deceased relatives, and then when they validated it upon waking, when they did what the deceased relative asked them to do, get the information, in the secret place in the house where they had never looked for it, and then they find it there, they're just blown away because it gives them a sense that there's something more to waking reality, that there truly is a spiritual realm, and that we'd be wise if we started to investigate that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so healing for the heart, like as that woman experienced. I've experienced that, I have. Absolutely. I can't believe we flew through almost 2 hours here. Please share your information with the listeners, how they can find your books, how they can get in touch.
Right. Yeah. So if you go to my website, lucidadvice.com, there you can ask questions or send me a note or whatever. You can learn about both of my books. My first one, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, is kind of the deep potential of lucid dreaming. The book about the tips and techniques is Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple. And that's just my best techniques, my best advice on how to become lucid, stabilize the lucid dream, and then use it to explore.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert, for coming on the show. And I hope you will come back again because I feel like this is only the tip of the iceberg here.
Oh, great. Well, Caroline, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And to all the listeners and to Brenda and Gary for your questions. So that was my show from 2023 and Navigating the Truth. And my guest was Robert Waggnor, and it was a really good show. That's the first time I've listened to the whole thing since it went out live on March 5th, 2023, and then I had the I had the archive, but I had put up maybe 30 minutes of it on my YouTube channel, which is just a small channel. I just put up like what I feel like putting up. But for some reason, like I know that it's really finicky, like YouTube, like it just keeps stealing people's work that they have put up there. And I have 104 subscribers, and I think every single one of them. Like, I would think that YouTube would have something better today, than kind of, but there you go. We're still shadow banned. Like, certain subjects are just a no-no, or if they don't like your face, or they, I don't really know what it is, but there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it, like information is information, and you can take it or leave it, you can listen, or you can move along, right? It's, you use your discernment, and I think that we actually, I gravitate towards what kind of resonates with me, or what, and you know what, I have to stop sharing the screen, because we don't need to share it anymore. So I hope that didn't mess up the sound there, because I was still sharing. But I hope the listeners got something out of that interview. I think he's a really interesting individual, and I feel he's very down to earth, very approachable, and he has quite a lot of people that he's in communication with. Like, he has quite a big group of lucid dreamers that subscribe to his magazine and kind of share what they have experienced. The magazine's great for stories, like other people's experiences in the realm of lucid dreaming. And I like that all this kind of experimentation is they're doing it to themselves, they're not doing it to other people or forcing other people into it's self exploration, and they're experimenting with it. Like I like that idea of like looking for the symbols, like kind of pointing to the symbols and having the symbols kind of, because a lot of it's like some of these realms that I have found myself in, it's all kind of cloak and dagger, like you think something means something and then it turns out it means something entirely different. I like the idea of getting that kind of focus, where when you see something and it's obviously a symbol, that it reveals itself to you, like that would save a lot of freaking rabbit holes and all kinds of things. But it was interesting to listen to the interview. I did enjoy it. I hope the listeners got something out of it, and reach out to him or get one of his books, like they're a good read. Like I did enjoy them, and my lucid dreaming improved, like after coming across some of the tips and ideas. I had some experience prior, and that was really what made me kind of look for books and people who were exploring these things, because in the beginning it was Carlos Castaneda. That was where I had first came across these ideas, just kind of slipping into other realms, like deliberately, like exploring them in a conscious manner. That was where I got my first ideas of that, and I had a bit of success, in the beginning. I kind of go, like, I think I got kind of arrogant, and also like young, still pretty young and feeling like a wee bit of knowledge, and you think you kind of know all, but there was still vast amounts to learn and be learned. Like, it doesn't seem to have a final destination, like learning seems to be ongoing. Experiences change, like the richer my consciousness becomes, like the more that I'm able to enrich it with experiences and understanding like these experiences. So I think it's really great to have conversations with people like Robert Waggnor, and there are many people out there that have explored all different avenues, so there's something like there's always a kindred somewhere, there's always like a
a like-minded individual that's kind of looking at things. But they will usually come from a different angle, which just enriches the whole experience, and that's the whole idea of communication and how important it is. And this is how we grow. This is how we learn. This is how we put differences aside. So stay tuned for Willow's World is up next, and after that you have Miss B and Talib with Omnium Garum, and I will be back next week. So have a great week, everybody, and have a great night. Take care. Bye bye.